Welcome to Fightline, brought to you in conjunction with Buy My Fight and Westbound Logistics Services. My name is Ben Doughty, and it's my intention, in the midst of a global boxing wilderness and more serious implications besides, to bring you as much sweet science related coverage as I can muster from my bolt hole. Inevitably, in the last couple of weeks, we've seen every major fight on the horizon cancelled. Friday night at the York Hall, just down the road from where I speak to you now, would have seen Philip Bowes square off against Akeem Ennis-Brown for the British and Commonwealth light welterweight title. Got a feel for both fighters who've now trained for two camps and not faced each other due to the hand of fate. We also would have seen Saturday night just gone, Marius Bradis and Jelena Dortikas square off in Latvia in the WBSS Cruiserweight final. I hear that one has been rescheduled for May 16th. That's all well and good, but I would suggest that in these very uncertain times, I would suggest that it's difficult for anybody really to have a clear take on precisely what the position will be in a couple of months' time. But certainly, all gatherings of over 200 have been pulled in Latvia until next month. Josh Kelly and David Anavisian in a good-looking headliner at the O2 would also have taken place this coming Saturday, and once again both fighters now have trained to face each other and not got to have the fight. You've got to particularly feel for David, who didn't pull out on the first occasion, and Billy Joe Saunders, who was thought to be nailed on for a mega fight with Canelo Alvarez on May the 2nd in Las Vegas, is now somewhat waiting to see what the position will be. It wouldn't be Billy Joe if there wasn't some madcappery involved, and some of you probably heard that story, and this is why I don't feel compromised by saying it to you now, that he was somehow responsible for Josh Taylor, Ben Davidson and his good friend Tom getting pulled off the plane recently. I don't want to dwell on that. Billy Joe has apologised for any negative context. I did speak to one of Billy Joe's right-hand men about an hour ago about this, and he said that hopefully the fight can still go on around June or July, but inevitably these are uncertain times. About the only major boxing story doing the rounds at the moment amidst this worldwide shutdown concerns the re-emergence of wild boar gates and the recent reports that Preston farmer Martin Carefoot was persuaded to perjure himself by claiming that he supplied uncastrated wild boar to Tyson Fury and Hughie Fury, which led to the failed tests relating to failed UKAD tests back in February 2015. Now, before I address this situation, and bear in mind I realise it's the height of silly season nonsense, hopefully, and it's not something I would like to dwell on when we're talking about Tyson Fury on top of the world right now, such a fantastic and inspirational comeback and such a brilliant performance again in his rematch against Deontay Wilder, an inspirational figure to millions of people. It seems a shame that he's being dragged into this context again, but let's examine the story, since it's the only story we have based on the facts. Now, the thing that I think is important about the UKAD case, amongst other things, is that Fury and his cousin Hughie were never actually acquitted. The failed test related to a February 2015 fight versus Christian Hammer. The thing that makes UKAD's position seem a little tenuous is the failed test for metabolites of nandrolone was not declared, and they didn't show their hand until June 2016. So clearly there is about a 16-month delay before they made their findings known, which you have to ask yourself why that was the case. I will look at that in a second, but the way the case was resolved, and I read the UKAD statement last night, which I'd never actually read before, was that UKAD's position was that these anti-doping violations have been committed as charged, and we believe, such is our position, that the sanctions, penalties as laid down in our anti-doping rules should apply. The position, however, of Team Fury, they stated, is that they have never knowingly committed any anti-doping violations. In view of the likely risk of litigation in terms of resolving the dispute, which UKAD acknowledged, they said both sides had reached a compromise position, which they reached 2 years down the line, that both Tyson and Hughie would receive a 2-year period of ineligibility, was the way it was phrased, basically a backdated ban, which is what most people understand in layman's terms, starting active from the 13th of December 2015 and expiring on the 12th of December 2017. Obviously, by the time that compromise was reached, Tyson had already been on the sidelines for over 2 years. He'd had his well-documented problems above and beyond the doping violation allegations, and his position in the past has been stated that it was more practical and pragmatic to continue with his career, despite the ignominious nature of having, a backdated ban for doping on his record. What this comes down to, it's not about establishing Tyson Fury or Yuri Fury's guilt of the doping offence, since that was basically upheld by the investigation in any case, albeit with what would be seen as a rather lenient penalty of a backdated 2-year ban instead of the more normal 4-year ban that is recommended, although not always the case that we've seen in the past. So what this comes down to strictly, and I hear that UKAD, the way that the Daily Mail and their ilk are reporting it, is that UKAD have reopened the investigation, and headlines have been claiming that Tyson Fury could face an 8-year ban if found guilty in this particular instance, which obviously I think most people would, you can't really count the guy out, can you? You can never say never, but most people would imagine that would spell the end of his career if that worst case scenario was to unfold. What we're looking at here is not whether Tyson Fury or Yuri Fury, who seems almost incidental at this point, in terms of the impact it will have on world boxing, it's not a question of whether they were guilty of the offence, since basically both sides reached a standoff and UKAD essentially said they were, or certainly they were not convinced of that innocence. It's about whether Fury and team deliberately tried to sabotage the just process of investigation. I would have thought, Martin Careful, it does seem strange he's put his head above the parapet like this and he's waited so long to tell his story. It does reek of opportunism, as Frank Warren certainly dismissed his motives in that regard. I think also, let's be honest, Fury, they're a travelling family. MTK are known as an outfit not to fuck around with. So the farmer is somewhat lit up like a Christmas tree with his allegations, which is interesting. He contends he's never ever dealt with wild boar, he's never ever had wild boar, and he's never supplied wild boar. I believe the 2 witness statements that he made for the investigation, regardless of what bearing they did or didn't have on the case, I believe they are a matter of public record, and they exist, and can be sourced. I would also think it would be quite easy and straightforward, although I'm no expert on the farming industry and the procedures, I would think it would be quite easy to prove whether he ever has indeed dealt with wild boar or not. In terms of what you think, what the position you would take on this, I would suggest it comes down to the fact that if it can be proven that somebody in Fury's team did try to get the man to perjure himself for the promise of £25,000, which allegedly wasn't paid, almost inevitably it would seem, hence the disgruntled farmer and the story, then it's a question of how much of a moral transgression you regard that as being, and whether that should result in a ban. Because all I can say, I hope to God that this fizzles out, and obviously it's got a better than average chance of being dwarfed by the global pandemic that we're currently facing. These are very uncertain times, and we don't know what the future is for individuals, and families in all industries, never mind somebody who is regarded at this point as being the premier heavyweight in the world. I think I like Tyson Fury as a fighter and as a man, although I have a limited experience of him on a one-to-one basis, and I would like to think that he can put his troubles behind him. We shall watch with interest and hope. When Joe Frazier met Argentinian wildman Oscar Bonavena on September the 21st, 1966 at Madison Square Garden, the 1964 Olympic gold medalist was facing his first test as a professional. Watching this footage makes me nostalgic for an era when I wasn't even born. 2 up-and-coming heavyweights meeting each other in a midweek main event at the Mecca of boxing. And it nearly panned out disastrously for Smoking Joe.
Frazier was the only American to win a gold medal in the 1964 Olympic boxing championship. And Frazier is down. He's taken the mandatory 8 count. Frazier was down from a short right.
Dropped by a short counter right hand in that second round. The thing that I marvel at when I watch this fight back is just the sheer desire and fearlessness of Frazier inside the squared circle. He's bouncing up and down like it was almost him who scored the knockdown, and he wants to get back at Oscar so he can go in for the kill. Clearly, having not recovered, he's chopped down by a bludgeoning left hook and then comes up under a further barrage when he gets to his feet. The 3 knockdown rule was in effect in New York, and you can see how perilously close to his first stoppage loss that Smoking Joe was.
We've got more than half the round to go. Frazier down again. He's got to take the mandatory 8 count. 5, 6, 7, 8. One more knockdown and Frazier will be out of it. Bonavena has a cut over the left eye. Bonavena is cut over the left eye. 1 minute to go in the round.
Making it to the bell and recovering remarkably well, Joe goes on to outwork Bonavena in the ensuing rounds for the most part to eke out a split decision. I'll leave you with the closing minute of the 10th and final round.
Frazier was down twice and almost out in the second round, but has battled back. This is the most important round here. Bonavena having Frazier in trouble again. 1 minute left now, 1 minute. "45 seconds left as Bonavena is putting on a terrific finish against Frazier." "15 seconds left. Listen to the applause. Bonavena looks at the clock. And there it is, the final bell of what we consider a very fine fight.
Judge Joe Effie has it 5-4, 1 even for Frazier. Referee Mark Kahn 6-4 for Frazier. Nick Gamboli scores 5 rounds for each boy. Points 7-5. Points favor of Bonavena. The winner by a split decision, Joe Frazier.
Joe Frazier coming over to our microphone with Milt Bailey. Joe, congratulations, you're still undefeated. Yancey Durham and Willie Reddish also with Milt. Joe, tell us about that second round. You were down twice and almost out, I thought.
Well, I was down. He caught me off surprise, rightly. But I wasn't hurt, you know. He caught me right on the button. Just like I say, a little man can hit you on the button, you go down.
Well, he's not a little man.
He's a big man, so that's what I mean by the little man.
What a guy. A great champion whose like we will not see again in a hurry. This has been episode 14 of Fightline. I've been Ben Doughty. Hope you enjoyed it. In the meantime, be lucky. Keep punching.